Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. It's the holidays. There's not a ton of news coming out. In fact, we have negative news this week. We have confirmation of something that's not going to happen. So, but it counts, okay? You can't take this away from me. So let's get into it. Why don't we? All right, first up, we have some updates on the Insomniac leaks. This was just something that I came across in a Bloomberg article, and I was like, oh, okay then. So there was a multiplayer Spider-Man game that was like in the leaked documents, but Jason Schreier from Bloomberg was like, actually, no, that's not happening. So let's read here. But many of the documents that have spread online thanks to the leak were old and may no longer be accurate, such as pitches for a multiplayer Spider-Man game that was actually canceled a long time ago, according to people familiar with the company's plans. So, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of relieved by this. So, here's the thing. I like playing single-player games. I really love and respect single-player game developers. I'm not a big fan of these big publishers taking their single-player studios, their world-renowned single-player studios, and being like, hey, you're going to make a Fortnite. We want a Fortnite. Give it to us now. It's happening. It happened with Crystal Dynamics in the Avengers game. It's happening with Rocksteady right now. We'll see how Suicide Squad turns out. Naughty Dog wasted literal years making a Last of Us multiplayer game that was recently canceled. And it looked like the same was going to happen with Insomniac. So, listen, I'm not saying that I'm like inherently against a multiplayer Spider-Man game. Is it something that I necessarily want? No. But it's like, if you're going to do it, don't take Insomniac and have them make it. If you really want to do it, go grab like a multiplayer developer. Or like build a from the ground up multiplayer developer that specializes in multiplayer games if you really want somebody to make this game for you. It's like if we were to have gotten a multiplayer Spider-Man game, it's just the economics of it. It would have taken resources away from another single-player game. So, like, we could have gotten, like, another... Like, instead of this, if we get a multiplayer game, that has to take the place of another Ratchet & Clank game, maybe, like, another Miles Morales spin-off game, or, like... another Wolverine game or another X-Men game or anything. So at the end of the day, I just don't really want multiplayer games. So I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't partially relieved by this. But let me know if you really desperately want a multiplayer Spider-Man game. I personally do not care that this was canceled. All right, next story. We got a new look at the Joker Folie Deux. Folie Ducks. Joker Folie Deux. We got some new looks at it. So here we have Joker in seemingly Arkham Asylum. But then the second look is Joker out in public, it seems like. And he's dressed in his full like Joker getup from the end of the first Joker movie. So part of me, this is my film theory. I'm thinking that this is actually like a dream sequence maybe. Where like either Joker is dreaming himself with Lady Gaga in the real world, or since Lady Gaga's playing Harley Quinn, maybe she's like dreaming herself being out in public with the Joker. So that's kind of that's my theory there. Or maybe just in this movie they escape Arkham Asylum and he dresses up in his full Joker getup at some point. I don't know. I'm gonna go with my dream sequence theory because there were a lot of dream stuff in the first movie where it was like, what's real and what's fake? Is Zazie Beetz real or is she all in your mind? She wasn't all in our minds. So, who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next up, the Zatanna movie is not happening anymore. It's going from CBR. No, it's not happening, Emerald Fennel explained. It was when J.J. Abrams had just arrived at Warner Brothers and was going to reboot the Dark Universe. And they were going to kind of make this new kind of dark sort of villain universe or hero-villain universe. It was complicated because I think the things change. So, yeah, I guess this is just confirmation that The Zatanna movie that was rumored was in fact a part of the J.J. Abrams sort of thing that they were doing. And then when the new when the new people came in, when Discovery bought Warner Brothers, I remember I would assume we would have had to report on it that the new CEO like just they said, oh, everything that you're doing, J.J. Abrams, yeah, we're just not going to do that anymore. So that it wasn't even just DC stuff; it was a bunch of other stuff as well. So yeah, it seems like this Zatanna movie was a part of that. Yeah, I mean, I like this Emerald Fennell lady who wrote the Zatanna script. I mean, she's currently, I think she was nominated for an Oscar for The Promising Young Woman. She's getting a lot of press for her Saltburn movie that just came out. So, I mean, if James Gunn's smart, he'd probably try to get her to do something. If not Zatanna, or I don't know, maybe they can get around to doing this Zatanna at some point. But yeah, I don't know much about this character. I've only ever seen her in like cartoons and stuff. She seems like a magic character, and she's like her like hero persona is like an actual magician. Like she's like pulling bunnies out of hats and shit. So I don't know. She seems like an interesting character. We shall see. Honestly, probably not a movie. She'd probably be more like fit for like a Max series or something. But we'll see. All right, next story. Looks like Bendy and the Ink Machine is following in FNAF's footsteps and will be getting a film. So they tweeted this out. Bendy is coming to the big screen. And yeah, they're partnering with Radar Pictures, who is like an actual production company. Like I think they made stuff like Jumanji and whatever. So yeah, Bendy and the Ink Machine, they're getting a movie. I don't know how popular Bendy is. Like obviously FNAF is like the biggest of the indie horror games, but I don't know where Bendy like ranks all that. Like, are they up there with FNAF, or are they more of the like Poppy's Playtime or whatever whatever that is? God, there's so many of these games, but I mean this one definitely seems like it could work and could appeal to general audiences, because the basic gist of these games are that they're basically cartoon characters that come to life. So, and they're like old-timey cartoon characters that are very much based off of like the rubber hose animation of early Disney. So it's kind of like if early Disney and Mickey and Minnie and Goofy, whatever, like bled out from the TV screens, and they're like these black and white sort of characters. And then they were demonic for some reason. So I've seen some stuff from the game, and I think it looks pretty cool. So I definitely think that this could work as an adaptation. And then I don't know how story-based the games are, so I don't know if it would be like with the FNAF movie, where they're not necessarily adapting any one of the specific games, but they're rather just taking the premise and doing their own thing with it. So yeah, I don't know. I will say I didn't love the FNAF movie. In fact, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was really bad. So hopefully this can be better. And honestly, like, you have to assume that the budget that they're gonna make it for like $5 that they find in their couch cushions, like they did with the FNAF movie. So I would imagine that this is something that would be almost assuredly profitable, even if it only makes like $80 million. You know, even if it doesn't sniff the $200 million that the FNAF made. If they spend like $20 million on this, like they'll be completely fine. But yeah, we shall see. All right, next up, James Gunn is debunking the Batman Part 2 rumors. So somebody posted this in Threads. Professor Pig and Scarecrow will join Clayface, Hush, and Dick Grayson in the Batman Part 2. And James Gunn responded to it and just said, nope, totally made up. So I will say I'm a little mixed on what exactly James Gunn means by this, because, yeah, if we go back to this, he's saying nope, totally made up, but I don't know if he means that none of these elements are going to be in the movie, or if it's just that all of these characters won't be in the movie. So, like, maybe Professor Pig and Clayface, maybe they'll be in the movie, but it's not everybody listed here at the same time. And I will say, I think that people are, like, whatever ends up happening at the end of the day, I do think that people are perhaps getting a bit too excited by these rumors of fantastical elements being in the Batman Part 2, because I don't think people have heeded the warning of Matt Reeves like to the degree that they should be. Matt Reeves has been very clear that his universe is grounded in realism. You know, like I don't like. I feel like people really want a big clay monster, and they want. Let's see who else was there, and they want like a Dick Grayson Robin, but it's like I don't think that in this universe, I don't think we're gonna get a big clay monster. I don't think we're gonna get a child sidekick. I don't think we're gonna see Robert Pattinson taking a child in to fight the Penguin, and Colin Farrell's like, "Hey, vengeance! I see you got a kid there." I don't think we're gonna see that in this universe. Maybe we get a Dick Grayson, and maybe maybe it's one of those things where actually I did like a YouTube Shorts and a TikTok about this recently, and someone in the comments actually laid out kind of a good idea where like Batman is just investigating the murder of the Grayson family, and Dick Grayson just happens to be involved in the situation, and I'm like, something like that could be cool, and then maybe he adopts him. But I don't think we're gonna see like an 11-year-old in a Robin outfit running around and solving the gruesome murders that Batman solves in this universe. So I don't know. I think there are ways that you can adopt these things, or you can adapt these things. I just don't. I just think that people shouldn't get their hopes up. Oh, and also I lied earlier. I didn't make a TikTok about it. I made like a proper video if you want to go watch that. But yeah, and so yeah, I think, and I will say this is vague enough in my opinion that, like, James Gunn's response, I mean, that I think for sure what we can take from this is that all of these characters together will definitely not appear in the Batman Part 2. But I do think that some of these characters individually, it's still up in the air whether or not they can appear. I don't know that James Gunn has confirmed that that none of these will appear. I will say though, I know that Hush is kind of like the people. It feels like it's the one that's most likely to show up based on all the rumors. I don't know. Based on everything that I know about the Hush character, he just seems a little too similar to the Riddler in the first one, where he's just like mad at the Wayne family or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if I just feel like those motivations might be too similar. And obviously you can adapt Hush, and that can be a thing. But yeah, we'll see. I trust Matt, whatever he wants to do. And the other thing I want to comment on. Yeah, this is coming from Daniel RPK. So they're like these, like, always look at the source of where these rumors are coming from, because there are a bunch of these like anonymous Twitter accounts like Daniel RPK and Can We Get Some Toast or whatever, that they're just always being like, my sources are telling me that this is happening and that is happening. And it's like, I'm not saying that these people are lying. I'm not saying that all of it is wrong necessarily, but I personally don't get too excited or even disappointed whenever I hear a rumor coming from any of these people, because it's just like, I wait until it's reported by Variety or The Hollywood Reporter or from the studios themselves or people that are actually involved in the project before I get too excited or disappointed, because these anonymous Twitter accounts are constantly throwing stuff out there, and you never really know if it's real or not. So that's just another thing that I'll throw out there. That's why I really try not to report on stuff that they report. That's why I remember I feel like there were a bunch of like Fantastic Four rumors that these like random anonymous Twitter accounts were throwing out there, and I just remember I ignored most of them until I think it was Variety or The Hollywood Reporter that reported that Pedro Pascal was in the running. So it's like, okay, there I'll talk about Fantastic Four castings. So I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there as well. So take with that what you will. All right, so those are all the stories that we have today. Now let's get into what I've been watching. So I watched episodes 3 through 8 of What If Season 2, and I have to say, the season is definitely better. This season is definitely better than the first. Let me actually pull up the episode listings so that I can make sure that I don't miss an episode. So episode 3 was What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas. This one was fun. It was basically like Happy. It's like Die Hard, but with Happy Hogan. And like the Avengers are away from Stark Towers, and Happy has to save the day when the villains come in and try and steal Stark tech. And yeah, this one was cute. I thought for the most part, none of the humor was like too cringy. But not really one of my favorites. You can skip this one if you wanted to. Then episode 4 was What If Iron Man Crashed into the Grandmaster. So yeah, it's like this one. The premise of it was pretty clever. It was what if at the end of the first Avengers movie, when when Tony like threw the nuke into the wormhole, what if it closed before Tony was able to get back to Earth, and then he lands on Sakaar, the planet from Thor Ragnarok, and you basically have Tony having to escape from being in Thor's position in Thor Ragnarok, and Gamora's there as well. It's the Gamora apparently from the Avengers team in the first season of What If. Apparently this was like an episode that was lost from this first season that they didn't get around to doing. So it was kind of cool from that part. However, overall though, this is one of the weaker episodes of the season, only because it leans a little way too far into the humor side of things, and then the humor just isn't funny. So in terms of like the what if scenario, it is pretty cool. It is pretty clever, but the execution just isn't really there. Then we have episode 5, which is What If Captain Carter Fought the Hydra Stomper. So this episode is a direct sequel from the Captain Carter from the Captain Carter episode from the first season, and this episode is awesome. It's basically it kind of tries to adapt the Winter Soldier, but this episode does a really cool thing, because in the first season, the Captain Carter episode tries to adapt the first Avenger, and that episode really didn't work for me, because I felt like it was just trying to take the first Avenger and like smushing it into like 30 minutes, and it was paced horribly. It was just like really felt like it was just going through the motions. And it was ultimately a miss for me, even though I do think that the idea of Captain Carter is cool. And the episode had some really cool action. This episode, from season 2, it takes the Winter Soldier and it takes the Black Widow movie, smushes it together, and it's actually awesome. The aspects from the Winter Soldier, it takes it, but it still does its own thing with it. Where it's Steve Rogers is sort of the Bucky replacement from the Winter Soldier, and you see Peggy trying to save Steve, which is actually a really heartwarming, or I guess in this case heartbreaking situation. The action in this is really, really awesome. Some of the best action that we've seen in What If. And then at the end of it, or I guess by the end of it, it takes influences from the Black Widow movie, and it does some really cool things with that. I would argue that this episode involves Natasha in a more meaningful way than even the Winter Soldier did, to be honest with you. So yeah, this episode was awesome. Episode 5, definitely, like, if you're somebody that just wants to skip through the good episodes of What If, definitely watch episode 5. And then episode 6 was What If Kahori Reshaped the World? So this is actually a new superhero that Marvel has created from scratch, from what I understand. I don't think she's appeared in any of the comics or anything, but this is basically what if the Tesseract landed in in the Americas. I guess it would be in like the 1600s, I think, or 1700s. I don't know, whenever Native Americans were around. I don't know history. And there's like this Native American tribe that finds it. And yeah, and then there's this Native American girl that turns into a superhero because of the Tesseract. And it's a really cool episode. It's all in like a Native American language, like all the dialogue, and it's also in Spanish because like the Spanish conquistadors come in at some point. And that part is really cool. I love it whenever like a movie or a TV show just commits to saying, "Hey, they're speaking a foreign language, and you're gonna read subtitles." I actually think that's really awesome. And yeah, I think the character is really cool. It's Native Americans fighting against Spanish conquistadors. That's always going to be a cool setup for a story, I think. And the lore that it kind of explores is also really awesome. It kind of has some similarities with like Shang-Chi and the lore that's set up. And I feel like maybe it provides. Actually, no, I was gonna say maybe it explains the weird like altered like dimension that Shang-Chi's family is from, but it's honestly just as confusing here. I guess the fact that maybe it comes from the Tesseract kind of explains some of it, but I'd be lying if I said that I still don't really understand what Marvel is trying to do with these weird pocket dimensions, because I don't. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because it's just it's cool. It's well done. I definitely recommend checking out episode 6 for sure. And yeah, I don't know what their plans are for this character. I don't know if she's going to show up in anything else. I don't know if she'd show up in like Echo or something, since that's also a Native American thing, just because she's like probably way too powerful for Echo. Like, or for like the low level stakes of Echo. It would be weird if like this like speedster superhero that can like create force fields. I don't know what she would be doing in the Echo show. So yeah, we'll see though. And then episode 7 was what if Hela found the 10 rings. So this is basically it's like what if when Odin was gonna, like when Hela was getting too big for her britches in Thor Ragnarok, and Odin like banished or like trapped her or imprisoned her in hell or something. I don't remember what the fuck happened in that movie. But when that happened, instead of Odin doing that, he like banished Hela to Earth, similar to what he does to Thor, so that she can learn a lesson or something. And so she lands in China. And this obviously would have been in the past, right, before Shang-Chi or whatever. But it's like, yeah. So what if Hela landed in China and the Mandarin tried to rizz her up, basically. But yeah, this is another really awesome episode. It's we see Hela training with the Mandarin, and well, actually no, she trains with Shang-Chi's mom actually instead of the Mandarin, because she kind of like runs away from the Mandarin from his harassment. And she meets up with Shang-Chi's mom, and there's a really cool training sequence with the mom and Hela, and then I guess I shouldn't spoil it, but eventually I guess I'll just say there's some really cool action in this. There's some we get to see like Odin like actually fighting, which is really awesome. And this episode also kind of confirms that Shang-Chi is like one of the most powerful Avengers, because we see the Mandarin with the rings like fighting gods and stuff, which, you know, I don't know that we necessarily would have assumed that after watching Shang-Chi, but it's like, if Shang-Chi has to at some point, like, he can fight powerful characters. Like, he could conceivably fight Thor and like the Hulk. But yeah, so really cool episode just conceptually, really cool episode in execution, and really cool episode in terms of building out the lore of Shang-Chi, I guess. All right. So yeah, the last episode that I've seen is episode 8. Episode 9 is tomorrow as of recording this video, so I can't really include it here. But episode 8 is what if the Avengers assembled in 1602. So yeah, basically this episode is another episode about Peggy Carter, and it's the same Peggy Carter that we've seen in these what if episodes, and she basically gets like sucked into 1602, and she has to interact with like Avengers from that period of time. Like, it's another universe where in that period of time the Avengers assembled, but it's like a weird situation where I guess two universes collided, or like the time periods collided. So it's like if the 1602, if it's like 1602 and the 21st century collided together, and so you have the Avengers from the future in 1602, but they don't know that they collided, so they just exist as if they always existed in the time period. It's kind of weird, but it's another really cool episode. I like seeing past versions of these characters. I think that's all really fun. The one thing that I don't understand is that there are like there's like the Ant-Man technology in 1602, and they don't explain it. Like they just don't explain how that's conceivable. So you just have like there's like the royal army of ant people, and that it just happened. But yeah, this one is really cool. We see like Peggy Carter continue to showcase why she's a hero, because it's actually really funny because the Watcher comes to Peggy and he's like, I can just take you back to your dimension. Like you don't have to like go on some journey to get back to your dimension. And she's like, no, I'm a hero. I have to. Oh yeah, because the two timelines collapsed on one another. That means that that entire universe is just gonna collapse. And Peggy's like, I have to help this universe in any way that I can. I have to uncollapse the timelines. I am a hero. So yeah, really cool episode for Peggy. And yeah, just really cool episode conceptually. I like seeing all the Avengers and all the past versions of them. I will say some of the dialogue is weird, and like some of the voice acting is weird. Like I don't know if it was actually Paul Rudd, but it's like Paul Rudd like switches back and forth from like from old timey dialect to just sounding like Paul Rudd like mid sentence. Some of the voice acting not too great. But yeah, overall a cool episode, and it kind of teases the finale next week, which should be fun because the Dark Doctor Strange comes in. But yeah, overall, What If Season 2, a lot better than the first season. So I got to give it to them. They, I don't know that there's an episode that's necessarily as good as the Doctor Strange episode from the first season, but there are a lot more just really cool episodes this season, whereas in the first season, there was a lot of duds, and then like 2 or 3 cool ones. So yeah, overall, better season than the first one. All right, next up, I watched Percy Jackson episode 3. I wrote episode 6 on my thing here, but that is inaccurate. It was in fact the 3rd episode. I would say this is the best episode of the season. I like that the trio is now together. And I mean, I still have a lot of the same complaints that I had from the first 2 episodes, where it's like it can get a little melodramatic at times, and some of the acting is not the best from these child actors. I don't want to be mean, but I also have to be honest. But also other times it's quite good. Other times I really like their dynamics with one another. I think they're really cute. It is funny because like in the books, it's like it's a book, so you kind of just accept it. And then in the movie, they casted like adults to play teenagers, so it wasn't really jarring in the movie. It is just very funny seeing like straight up children having to fight these creatures. Like it is just really funny just seeing this like giant demonic. What is it, like a prairie? No, I forget what is Miss Dobbs. I forget what kind of creature she is. Seeing this like demonic creature trying to like fight these small children. It's really funny. I don't know. That's not a negative. I actually think that adds to the show. But yeah, this is like they meet up with Medusa in this one. Medusa, I would in fact betray my friends for her. I just want to put that out there. Medusa did nothing wrong. But yeah, overall, better than the first 2. The show's still not as good as I wanted it to be. I gotta be honest about that. Still not as good as I wanted it to be, but obviously I'm gonna watch the whole thing, and hopefully it gets to that point. We'll see. All right. I also watched The Iron Claw. So this is an A24 movie. It stars Zac Efron and the guy from The Bear. I don't remember. Jeremy Allen White. That's his name. And yeah, so this is a biopic about the the Von Erich family. So I know nothing about this story going into it. I just heard that it was good, so I decided to give it a watch. And they are apparently they are like one of the most famous families in wrestling, like WWE kind of wrestling, and this is their story. And this movie is very sad. I did not know how sad this movie was going to be. I knew that it was going to be sad, and I knew that it was going to be, like kind of a tragic story. I didn't know how far it was going to go. And to know that this actually happened is really depressing. So it's a great, and Zac Efron and pretty much everybody involved, they all give phenomenal performances. Like it's one of the, like, I would give Zach probably a Best Actor nomination. It's kind of his movie, just because he is really great in it, and his transformation is insane. Like, I should probably look up a picture of him in Baywatch, but I want to say that Zac Efron is somehow even more buff in this than he was in Baywatch. Oh yeah, no, he is more buff in this than he was in Baywatch. Yeah, he's thicker in the Iron Claw, I would say. And Baywatch, he's kind of lean, I feel like. Jesus, I could never imagine getting in this kind of shape. Sorry, I'm gonna stop. I want to stop staring at Zac Efron. Okay. But yeah, no, the movie's really great. Performances are phenomenal. But be warned, it is very sad. It is very depressing. You're not gonna feel great after watching it. I mean, I guess it does end on kind of a positive note. Doesn't change the fact that you're gonna be depressed. Okay, I also watched Poor Things. So, this is a film starring what's her name? She's on the Emma Stone. It also stars Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, and basically Emma Stone plays like a Frankenstein kind of character that Willem Dafoe brought back to life, and she's kind of she's kind of like I'll just say she's like reverted to the mind of a child. I was trying to find the best way to put that. But yeah, the character is reverted back to the mind of a child in like a woman's body, and it's basically about her journey and exploration of learning about humanity and it's good. It's really good. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to like spoil it or whatever, but it's a good one to just walk into and watch it just to see what happens. But yeah, it's really funny. It's pretty absurdist at some points. Like there's a lot of like nudity in it and stuff like that, but it's done in a way that is humorous, I would say. Emma Stone is great in it. Willem Dafoe's as good as he always is. Mark Ruffalo is surprisingly great in this movie, like really, really good. And yeah, it's a very absurdist film as well. The set design is wonderful. It's very silly and it almost feels like a stage play at certain points in regards to the set design. It's very cool. It's a very cool movie. And yeah, it's a really good watch as well. In terms of the narrative, it wraps up in a really nice place, and seeing Emma Stone's character's like arc throughout the film, it is very drastic from where she begins and where she ends, but the journey it never feels jarring throughout the movie. Like as her character evolves and changes, it all feels very natural. So yeah, this is a really cool movie. I highly recommend it. All right. Next up, it's Anyone But You. This movie is awful. So this is a rom-com starring Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, and oh my god, are these two some of the most boring actors, two of the most boring characters to ever feature in a rom-com. Absolutely zero sauce to this film. Absolutely zero chemistry. Not funny. I think I maybe smiled a couple times on purpose. Sometimes I Most of the laughs I had in this movie were because of just how bad it was. I feel like I can now give this take that I had when I watched Top Gun Maverick. Glenn Powell, charismaless actor, no screen presence, just bland. Sydney Sweeney, apparently she's been nominated for 2 Emmys. All I can say is that this movie was not a good showing of her acting prowess. Although maybe she was just saving all of her acting juices for Madam Web. Madam Web is where she's going to show herself, I feel like. But yeah, I don't know. Terrible rom-com. The main important thing is that you're supposed to want the two characters to get together. I had zero investment in their relationship. Didn't care whether or not they got together. Didn't want them to not get together. Had just zero feelings towards these two people. 2 of the most boring characters to ever be in a rom-com. So don't watch Anyone But You. Don't bother. It's not worth it. It's not even so bad it's good. It's just boring. So there's that. That's gonna be it for this episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. Let me know what you think about any and all of the things that we brought up today. What did you get for Christmas? Did you get a PS5? Did your parents punish you with an Xbox One X or Series X, whatever it's called? I don't know why I'm trying to stir up console wars. That's not what we do on this channel. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.